The text lit up my phone. Last night was. My heart stopped. It was my wife's phone, not mine. I wasn't supposed to see it, but there it was, proof of her betrayal. I could confront her, lose everything in a scream. Or I could play smarter. I chose the latter, and it changed my life. Diego Morales leaned against the kitchen counter, the faint hum of Seattle's evening traffic filtering through the apartment window. His hands gripped a steaming mug of coffee, the kind he brewed every night to wind down from his architect job. Blueprints and deadlines cluttered his mind, but the real weight came from Sophia, his wife of 5 years. She sat on the couch, legs curled under her, scrolling through her phone with a focus that shut him out. The screen's glow lit her fingers, tapping faster than she ever did when they talked. "Hey, Soph," Diego said, keeping his tone light. "Want to catch a movie tonight? Maybe that new thriller?" He'd been planning this for days, a small gesture to pull her back from wherever she'd been drifting. She didn't look up. "Busy," she muttered, her voice flat as the glass in her hand. "Work stuff." Diego's jaw tightened, but he nodded, sipping his coffee to mask the sting. Work stuff. That was her excuse for every late night, every dodged conversation. He wasn't blind. Her marketing job demanded long hours, but the way she guarded her phone, the way her laughter stopped when he entered the room, it gnawed at him. Still, he played the part. The steady husband, the guy who paid the bills, cooked dinner, kept their life humming along. He thought stability was enough. He was wrong. The next evening, Diego came home to find Sophia on a call, her voice low and warm, a tone he hadn't heard in months. She stood by the window, twirling a strand of hair, oblivious to his arrival. "Can't wait to see you," she whispered into the phone, a smile creeping into her words. Diego froze, his keys still in hand, the metal biting into his palm. She turned, saw him, and her expression flipped to neutral. "Gotta go," she said quickly, ending the call. "Who was that?" Diego asked, setting his bag down, his voice casual, but his pulse anything but. "Work friend," Sophia said, brushing past him to the kitchen. "Just catching up." He watched her pour a glass of water, her movements too deliberate, like she was buying time. Sounded like more than catching up. He pressed, leaning against the doorway. She shot him a glance, sharp and fleeting. "Don't start, Diego. It's nothing." She walked away, phone clutched tight, leaving him in the quiet. That night, he couldn't sleep. The bed felt too big, Sophia's breathing too steady next to him. His mind replayed her words, that laugh, the way she dodged his eyes. By morning, he'd decided, no confrontations, no accusations. He'd find the truth himself. The chance came sooner than expected. Wednesday, after Sophia left for a client dinner, Diego noticed her phone on the counter, screen dark but unlocked, a rare slip. His fingers hovered over it, a mix of dread and resolve churning in his chest. He wasn't this guy, the one who snooped, but the weight of her secrecy pushed him forward. He tapped the screen, and there it was, a text from Alex. "Last night was incredible. Same place tomorrow?" Sophia's reply, counting the hours. His stomach dropped. He scrolled up, each message a knife. Flirty banter, coded plans, a photo of a hotel keycard. Diego's hands moved fast, almost mechanical, screenshotting every damning word, every image. He sent them to his phone, then to a cloud folder, password protected, untouchable. When he set her phone back, exactly as it was, his heart pounded, but his mind was clear. He had proof now. The question was what to do with it. Sophia came home late, her heels clicking softly as she slipped into bed. Diego lay still, pretending to sleep, his thoughts racing. He could wake her, demand answers, let the anger spill. But that wasn't him. He'd always been the planner, the one who saw the structure beneath the chaos. This wasn't a fight to win with shouting. It was a chess game, and he'd just secured the first move. The next day, he doubled down on normalcy. He stopped by Sophia's favorite coffee shop, grabbing her usual oat milk latte. When he handed it to her, she murmured a distracted, "Thanks," her eyes already back on her phone. Diego smiled, tight-lipped, and went to work, sketching building designs with a precision that kept his hands steady. But inside, he was mapping something else. How to protect himself, how to expose her without losing control. That evening, a knock at the door broke the apartment's tension. Sophia was still at her meeting, so Diego answered. There stood Elena, Sophia's younger sister, her suitcase damp from Seattle's drizzle. "Diego," she said, her voice bright despite the long trip from Portland. "Hope I'm not crashing your vibe." He laughed, taking her bag. "Never. Good to see you, Elena." Her warmth was immediate, unforced, a contrast to Sophia's cold distance. Elena, a graphic designer, had always been the curious one, asking about his projects, his life, with a sincerity that felt like a lifeline. She was staying for a week, crashing on their couch while visiting clients in the city. As they caught up over takeout, Elena's stories about her quirky Portland clients filled the room with ease. Diego found himself relaxing, laughing for the first time in days. But when Sophia walked in, the air shifted. She hugged Elena tightly, her smile genuine for her sister, but when her eyes met Diego's, they cooled. "Long day," she said, grabbing a plate and joining them, her phone never far from her hand. Diego watched the sisters, noting the effortless bond between them. Elena's presence was a wild card he hadn't planned for her, but as she helped clear the dishes, humming a tune, he felt a shift. Her kindness, her attention, it reminded him of what he'd been missing. And though he didn't say it, a small part of him wondered if this week would change more than just the apartment's mood. By Friday, Diego's routine held firm. Work, coffee for Sophia, screenshots when her phone was left unguarded. The evidence piled up, dates, times, a restaurant downtown. He stayed calm, even as Sophia grew bolder, texting Alex while Diego sat across from her. Elena noticed the tension, her eyes lingering on Diego during dinner, but she didn't pry. Instead, she asked about his latest project, a community center design, and listened like his words mattered. It was a small thing, but it steadied him. That night, Sophia announced another late work event. Diego nodded, saying nothing, his mind already on the next move. As she left, Elena glanced at him, her expression unreadable. "You okay?" she asked, setting down her sketchpad. He hesitated, then nodded. "Just navigating some stuff." She didn't push, but her quiet presence felt like an anchor. Diego poured himself a glass of wine, offering her one. She accepted, and they sat in the living room, the city's hum outside a faint backdrop. Neither mentioned Sophia, but the weight of her absence hung between them. Diego didn't know it yet, but this moment, this fragile, unspoken connection, was the first step toward a reckoning he couldn't predict. Diego Morales sat at his desk, the faint buzz of the architecture firm's open-plan office humming around him. His computer screen displayed a half-finished blueprint, but his focus was elsewhere. His phone, tucked in his pocket, held the growing cache of screenshots, Sophia's texts with Alex, each one a shard of betrayal. Last night's message was the boldest yet. "Meet me at the Harbor Hotel, 8 p.m. tomorrow. Can't stop thinking about you." Diego's thumb hovered over the evidence, his jaw tight. He wasn't ready to act, not yet. He needed more. Back at the apartment, Sophia was out again, citing another client dinner. Diego had stopped believing her excuses, but he kept his routine airtight, cooking dinner, leaving her coffee on the counter, acting the part of the unshaken husband. Elena, Sophia's sister, was still staying with them, her presence a quiet counterpoint to the tension. She'd taken to sketching at the kitchen table, her pencils scratching softly as Diego chopped vegetables for tacos. "You're good at this," she said, nodding at the sizzling pan. "Sophia's lucky." Diego gave a short laugh, stirring the beef. "She doesn't notice." He regretted the words instantly, but Elena didn't flinch. She set her sketchpad down, her eyes steady. "Something's off, isn't it?" she asked, her voice low, not pressing but open. He hesitated, the knife pausing mid-chop. "Just work stress," he said, deflecting. Elena nodded, but her gaze lingered, like she saw through the lie. She didn't push, instead picking up her pencil and sketching again. Diego watched her for a moment, the way her hands moved with purpose, and felt a flicker of warmth he hadn't expected. The next morning, Sophia left her phone on the bathroom counter while showering, a careless mistake. Diego's pulse quickened as he swiped through more messages. Alex had sent a photo, a dimly lit bar, his hand holding a drink, captioned "Wish you were here." Sophia's reply was a heart emoji, and soon, Diego's fingers moved fast, capturing everything, his cloud folder now a vault of her secrets. He locked the phone and stepped away, the sound of the shower masking his movements. When Sophia emerged, she grabbed her phone without a glance, oblivious. That evening, Elena suggested takeout, a break from Diego's cooking. They ordered pho from a place down the street, the steam rising as they ate in the living room. Sophia was working late, again, her absence a silent drumbeat. Elena slurped a noodle, then set her bowl down. "You ever feel like you're stuck in a loop?" she asked, her tone casual but pointed. "Same day, same fights, same everything?" Diego leaned back, his bowl untouched. "Every damn day." He hadn't meant to say it, but Elena's openness pulled it out. She nodded, like she'd expected it, and changed the subject to a client who'd asked her to design a logo in neon pink. Her laugh was light, unforced, and Diego found himself smiling, the weight in his chest easing for the first time in weeks. Later, as they cleaned up, Elena's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then sighed. Sophia's asking me to cover for her tomorrow night. Says she's got a work thing, but doesn't want you worrying. Her eyes met Diego's, searching. You think she's being straight? Diego's grip on a dish tightened, but he kept his voice even. She hasn't been straight in a while. He didn't elaborate, and Elena didn't ask, but the air between them shifted, charged with unspoken understanding. The next day, Diego left work early, telling his boss he had a personal errand. He drove to the Harbor Hotel, the one from Sophia's texts, and parked across the street. His hands gripped the steering wheel as he watched the entrance. At 8:05 p.m., Sophia stepped out of a cab, her stride confident, no hint of the work stress she'd claimed. A man, tall, broad-shouldered, in a dark jacket, met her at the door. They embraced, her hand lingering on his arm before they disappeared inside. Diego didn't follow. He didn't need to. His phone camera caught the moment, another piece of evidence locked away. Back home, Elena was still up, reading on the couch. She looked up as Diego walked in, her expression softening. Rough day? She asked. Something like that, he said, dropping his keys on the counter. He poured a glass of water, avoiding her gaze. Sophia say when she's back? Elena shook her head. Just that it's late. She sounded distracted. She paused, then added, if you need to talk, I'm here. Diego nodded, the offer landing heavier than it should. He sat across from her, the silence stretching. Appreciate it, he said finally, his voice low. Just trying to figure out what's next. The next night, Sophia's absence stretched longer. Diego and Elena played cards at the kitchen table, a deck she'd found in a drawer. The game was light, but the conversation turned real. Elena shared how she'd left a toxic job in Portland, choosing freelance work to reclaim her time. Sometimes you have to cut things loose to breathe, she said, dealing a card. Diego nodded, her words sinking in. He was starting to see a way out, not through anger, but through clarity. By Sunday, Diego's folder held a timeline. Texts, photos, dates, all cross-referenced. He'd even found Alex's LinkedIn, some mid-level finance guy with a slick smile. The evidence was ironclad, but Diego still held back. Confronting Sophia now would be too easy, too messy. He wanted control, not chaos. Elena, meanwhile, kept the apartment livable, making coffee in the mornings, asking about his designs. Her presence was steady, but Diego caught himself noticing her too closely. The way she tucked her hair behind her ear, the way her laugh broke the apartment's silence. That night, Sophia came home past midnight, her purse slung over her shoulder. She paused when she saw Diego and Elena watching a movie, the screen's glow the only light. Didn't expect you both up, she said, her tone clipped. Couldn't sleep, Diego said, his eyes on the TV. Elena offered a small smile, but Sophia didn't return it. She headed to the bedroom, her phone already in hand. Diego exchanged a glance with Elena, a silent agreement that something was about to break. As the week neared its end, Diego knew Elena's stay was almost over. The thought of her leaving tightened something in his chest. She'd become a witness to his unraveling life, but also a reminder of what connection felt like. Sophia, meanwhile, grew bolder, texting Alex openly, leaving her phone out like she didn't care. Diego kept collecting, his plan taking shape. He wasn't sure what the next move was, but he knew it was coming. And when it did, he'd be ready. Diego Morales sat on the couch, the Seattle rain drumming a steady rhythm outside. His phone lay face down on the coffee table, its hidden folder brimming with evidence of Sophia's affair. Texts, photos, timestamps, all meticulously saved. He'd spent days building his case, each piece a brick in the wall he'd used to reclaim his life. Tonight, Sophia was at another networking event, her lies as routine as the city's drizzle. Elena, her sister, sat across from him, sketching in a notebook, her presence a quiet anchor in the storm. Want some wine? Diego asked, standing to grab a bottle from the kitchen. Elena nodded, setting her pencil down. They'd fallen into an easy rhythm this week, sharing meals, swapping stories, her warmth cutting through the chill of Sophia's absence. As Diego poured 2 glasses of Pinot Noir, Elena's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, her brow furrowing. Sophia's staying out late again, she said, her voice careful. Asked me to tell you not to wait up. Diego handed her a glass, his expression neutral. She's been saying that a lot. He sat beside her, closer than he meant to, the wine's sharp scent mixing with the rain's hum. Elena sipped, her eyes meeting his over the rim, a question lingering there. You don't seem surprised, she said, setting her glass down. Is there something I'm missing? Diego's fingers tightened around his glass, but he kept his tone steady. Let's just say Sophia's been busy. He didn't elaborate, and Elena didn't press, but the air between them thickened, charged with unspoken truths. They turned on a jazz record, the saxophone's low wail filling the room. Elena talked about a mural project she'd pitched in Portland, her hands gesturing as she described the design. Diego listened, drawn to her energy, so different from Sophia's guarded detachment. The conversation drifted to childhood memories, her sneaking out to concerts, him fixing boats at a summer job. Laughter came easily, and for a moment, the weight of Sophia's betrayal lifted. As the record spun to its end, Elena reached for the bottle, her fingers brushing Diego's. The touch lingered, deliberate. Their eyes locked, and the room seemed to shrink, the rain's patter fading. Neither spoke. Diego leaned in, his pulse loud in his ears, and Elena met him halfway. The kiss was tentative, careful, tasting of wine and possibility. It wasn't desperate, but it carried a weight they both felt. They pulled back, Elena's breath uneven. We shouldn't, she whispered, but her hand stayed on his arm. Probably not, Diego said, his voice low, but he didn't move away. The moment hung, fragile, until the sharp jangle of keys broke it. The apartment door swung open. Sophia stood there, her purse slipping to the floor, rain-soaked hair clinging to her shoulders. Her eyes darted from Diego to Elena, then to the wine glasses, the record player's soft crackle. For a second, no one moved. Then her voice cut through, raw and jagged. Are you serious? She said, stepping forward, her heels clicking like gunshots. In my own house? With my sister? Elena scrambled to her feet, clutching her sweater. Sophia, her voice broke, eyes wide with guilt. Save it, Sophia snapped, her gaze swinging to Diego. You're pathetic. Diego stood, his calm a steel thread. Pathetic's a strong word from someone who's been lying for months. He pulled his phone from his pocket, opened the folder, and slid it across the coffee table. Alex, the Harbor Hotel. Every text, every photo. I've got it all. Sophia froze, her hand hovering over the phone. She scrolled, her face draining of color as the evidence unfolded. Dates, messages, the hotel keycard. Her mouth opened, then closed, no words coming. Elena backed toward the door, her voice barely a whisper. I'm so sorry. She grabbed her bag and fled, the door slamming behind her. Sophia's eyes flashed back to Diego, fury replacing shock. You think this makes you better than me? She grabbed a ceramic mug from the table and hurled it against the wall. It shattered, pieces skittering across the floor. You're no saint. Diego didn't flinch. I never claimed to be, but I didn't break us first. He stepped closer, his voice steady. You checked out, Sophia. You made your choice. She laughed, sharp and bitter. So you kissed my sister to get even? Real classy. No, Diego said, his tone cold. That wasn't about you. But this? He tapped his phone. This is. You don't get to play victim when you've been planning your nights with him. Sophia's hands shook, but her defiance cracked. She grabbed her purse and stormed to the bedroom, slamming the door. Diego stood alone, the mug shards at his feet, the jazz record still spinning. He'd expected rage, maybe relief, but instead felt a strange clarity. The truth was out, raw and undeniable. Sophia's world was unraveling, and he held the thread. He walked to the window, the city's lights blurred by rain. His phone buzzed. Elena, texting a single word. Sorry. Diego didn't reply. He didn't regret the kiss, but he wasn't sure what it meant. Not yet. What he did know was that Sophia's lies were exposed, and he wasn't the one running. For the first time in months, he felt the ground steady beneath him, even as the apartment echoed with the wreckage of their marriage. Diego Morales checked into a motel on the edge of Seattle, the kind with flickering neon signs and vending machines that hummed louder than the traffic. He dropped his duffel bag on the narrow bed, the springs creaking under its weight. His phone sat silent in his pocket, still holding the damning evidence of Sophia's affair, texts, photos, a timeline of her deception. Last night's confrontation had left their apartment a battlefield, shattered ceramic and unspoken truths scattered across the floor. Diego hadn't slept, but his mind was sharp, focused. He wasn't running, he was regrouping. The morning after Sophia caught him with Elena, Diego woke to a string of texts from his wife. We need to talk. I was hurt. We can fix this. Her words were careful, almost rehearsed, but Diego saw through them. He didn't respond. Instead, he called a lawyer, a no-nonsense woman named Carla who specialized in clean divorces. Bring everything you have, she said over the phone, her voice crisp. Evidence like that? It'll make things straightforward. Diego emailed her the folder, every screenshot, every timestamp, then headed to a coffee shop to clear his head. Elena's text came as he sipped an espresso. I'm staying with a friend. I didn't mean to make things worse. Diego stared at the message, his thumb hovering. He typed, you didn't. This was always coming. He hit send, then pocketed his phone. The kiss with Elena had been a spark, reckless but real, and he didn't regret it. Still, her absence left a quiet ache. She'd been a lifeline in the apartment's tension, and now she was gone, caught in the same wreckage as him. Back at the motel, Diego opened his laptop, pulling up his architecture portfolio. Work had been his anchor, but he'd been coasting, safe projects, predictable hours. Now he sketched ideas for a side hustle, small, sustainable designs for community spaces. The work steadied him, each line a step towards something new. His phone buzzed again. Sophia, this time a voicemail. Diego, please. I messed up, but we can work through this. Call me. Her voice cracked, but Diego deleted it without a second thought. Her pleas were too late, her guilt a performance. By midweek, Elena reached out again, suggesting coffee at a quiet spot near Pike Place. Diego arrived early, the market's bustle a low hum in the background. Elena walked in, her sketchbook tucked under her arm, her steps hesitant. I wasn't sure you'd come, she said, sliding into the booth. Didn't see a reason not to, Diego replied, his tone even. He ordered a black coffee, she a chai, and they sat, the air between them heavy but not hostile. Elena fiddled with her cup, then spoke. I shouldn't have kissed you. Not like that, not there. But, she paused, her eyes meeting his. It wasn't just a mistake. I felt something. Diego leaned forward, his voice low. So did I? But I'm not looking to complicate your life. Or mine. He meant it, but the pull was undeniable. Her honesty, her warmth, so different from Sophia's calculated distance. Elena nodded, her fingers tracing the edge of her sketchbook. Sophia called me, you know? Said she's sorry, but it's all about her. Not you, not us. She shook her head. I told her I need space. Diego sipped his coffee, processing. She's good at apologies when she's cornered. He didn't elaborate, and Elena didn't ask. They parted with a promise to stay in touch. No commitments, just an open door. As Diego walked back to the motel, the city's damp air felt lighter, like he'd shed a layer of weight. Carla, the lawyer, called the next day. Your evidence is solid, she said. Adultery's clear, and Washington's a no-fault state, but this gives you leverage for assets. She'll have a hard time fighting it. Diego instructed her to draft divorce papers, prioritizing a fair split of their shared accounts and the apartment lease. He didn't want revenge, he wanted freedom. Sophia, meanwhile, had moved out, crashing with a friend, her social media a parade of vague posts about new beginnings. Diego scrolled through one, her at a wine bar, glass raised, caption reading Finding My Way. He felt nothing, not anger, not pity, just distance. She'd built her own cage, and he wasn't the one locked in it. A week later, Elena texted, asking to meet again. This time, they walked along the waterfront, the Puget Sound glinting under a rare break in the clouds. I'm heading back to Portland soon, she said, kicking a pebble. But I keep thinking about you. About us. Diego stopped, the water lapping nearby. I'm not ready to jump into anything, he said, honest but firm. But I don't want to lose what we started. She smiled, small but real. Me neither. Let's just see where it goes. They walked on, their hands brushing once, twice, but not holding. It was enough for now. Back at the motel, Diego finalized his first freelance pitch, a community garden pavilion for a local nonprofit. The work felt like a lifeline, proof he could build something new. Sophia's lawyer reached out, agreeing to the divorce terms, no contest. She'd seen the evidence, knew she'd lose more by fighting. Diego signed the papers, his signature steady, and sent them back. The motel's hum faded as he worked late, sketching under the dim lamp. He wasn't whole yet, but he was moving forward, one deliberate step at a time. Diego Morales stood on the porch of a small cabin 2 hours north of Seattle, the morning air sharp with the scent of pine. 6 months had passed since he'd walked away from his marriage, leaving behind the apartment and Sophia's betrayal. The divorce was finalized, the papers signed, his evidence ensuring a clean split. Half the savings, no alimony, the lease transferred to Sophia. He'd moved here, to a rented cabin near Bellingham, trading city noise for quiet trails and a fresh start. His laptop sat open on a wooden table, displaying a 3D model of a community center he'd designed for a local nonprofit, his first big freelance win. Elena had joined him a month ago, her graphic design work now remote. She stepped outside, balancing 2 mugs of coffee, and handed one to Diego. Their dog, a scrappy mutt named Milo they'd adopted together, bounded after her, chasing a stick across the yard. "You're up early," she said, settling into a chair beside him. "Big day. Client meeting," Diego replied, closing his laptop. They liked the pavilion sketches. He sipped his coffee, the warmth grounding him. Elena's presence had become a steady rhythm. Late-night talks, shared hikes, moments that built trust without rush. They'd agreed to take things slow, letting their connection grow on honest terms. Sophia, meanwhile, had faded into the background. Diego had seen her last post online, a selfie at a Portland bar, captioned "Embracing the Journey." Friends left supportive comments, but Diego knew the subtext. Her affair with Alex had fizzled, leaving her to navigate the fallout alone. She'd reached out once, a hesitant email about closure, but Diego didn't reply. She'd made her choices, and the consequences, strained ties with Elena, a reputation bruised among mutual friends, were hers to carry. Elena set her mug down, watching Milo dig at a patch of dirt. "I got a call from Sophia yesterday," she said, her voice even. "She's moving to California. Some new job." She paused, glancing at Diego. "Asked if we're together." Diego raised an eyebrow. "What did you say?" "That it's none of her business." Elena's tone was firm, but her hand reached for his, fingers lacing briefly before letting go. "She's trying to rewrite the story, make it about her redemption. I'm done playing that game." Diego nodded, understanding. Sophia's betrayal had been the catalyst, but it was his own choices, gathering evidence, walking away, building something new, that had set him free. He hadn't sought revenge in the petty sense. His justice was living well, unburdened by her lies. Later that day, Diego drove to the nonprofit's office, presenting his design to a small board. They approved it on the spot, praising the way his plans blended function with community spirit. As he left, his phone buzzed, a text from Elena. "Dinner's on me tonight. Celebrating your win." He smiled, typing back, "Deal. Pick the place." That evening, they ate at a small diner overlooking the bay, plates of fish and chips between them. Elena talked about a new logo she was designing, her enthusiasm pulling Diego into the moment. They laughed over Milo's latest trick, stealing socks from the laundry, and planned a weekend hike. The conversation flowed, unforced, each word a brick in the life they were building. As they walked back to the car, the sky clear and studded with stars, Elena stopped, turning to him. "You ever think about how we got here?" she asked, her breath visible in the cool air. "Sometimes," Diego said, leaning against the car. "I used to wonder what I'd done wrong, why Sophia pulled away. But it wasn't about me. It was her." He paused, meeting Elena's eyes. "Getting here, with you, it's not what I planned, but it's right." She stepped closer, her hand finding his. "Good, because I'm not going anywhere." They stood there, the bay's quiet lapping the only sound, their fingers intertwined. It wasn't a promise of forever, but it was real, grounded in the present. Back at the cabin, Diego checked his email one last time. A message from Carla, his lawyer, confirmed the final transfer of assets. Sophia had signed off, no fight left. He closed the laptop, the weight of the past finally gone. Sophia's choices had cost her a marriage, a sister's trust, and a piece of her social circle. Diego's response hadn't been destruction, but liberation, using the truth to secure his future, not to burn hers down. He stepped outside, joining Elena on the porch. Milo curled up at their feet as they watched the sky darken, the stars sharper now. Diego thought of Sophia's posts, her curated life online, and felt no pull to look back. His world was here, the cabin, the work, Elena's quiet laugh as she pointed out a constellation. It wasn't perfect, but it was his, built on choices that aligned with who he'd become. The nonprofit project moved forward the next week, Diego's designs taking shape in blueprints and community buzz. Elena landed a new client, her sketches piling up on the table. They cooked together, argued over spices, and took Milo on walks through the woods. Sophia's name came up less and less, a footnote in a story that no longer defined them. Diego knew life wasn't a tidy arc. There'd be challenges, freelance deadlines, Elena's doubts about her own choices, the dog's inevitable messes. But as he stood on the porch, coffee in hand, watching the sunrise filter through the trees, he felt steady. Sophia had gambled their marriage and lost. Diego had played smarter, not with anger but with clarity, and won something better, a life where he answered to himself.